A golden retriever bolts into heavy traffic, barking frantically. Cars swerve. Horns blare. People yell. The dog refuses to move, until one driver slams the brakes and jumps out. What happens next forces the entire road to shut down, and brings officers to tears. It was supposed to be just another Monday evening in Maple Ridge, a sleepy suburban town nestled beside a stretch of thick woods. Commuters were impatiently crawling through their usual rush-hour traffic. Kids were glued to backseat screens, drivers clutching coffee cups, thinking about dinner or the evening news. But no one driving down Route 17 that evening could have predicted what would bring everything to a grinding halt. It wasn't a wreck. It wasn't a protest. It wasn't even an Animal Crossing sign ignored. It was a dog. A lone golden retriever, frantic and unkempt, came sprinting from the edge of the woods, weaving between speeding cars, barking with desperation. Not the kind of bark that says, "Feed me or pet me." No, this was different. Raw, urgent, almost pleading. And what the dog led people to would turn a quiet town into a nationwide headline. The dog wasn't just crossing the street, it was stopping it. Drivers hit their brakes. A delivery van skidded to a halt. One woman screamed when she nearly hit the retriever, her car swerving into the shoulder. But instead of running away like most animals would, the golden retriever stood its ground. It ran up to the nearest stopped car, a red Toyota, and began scratching at the door with its paws. Then it darted to the next car, barking louder. His tail wasn't wagging. His ears were back, eyes wild. Inside the red Toyota, 35-year-old nurse Danielle Harper sat frozen, clutching the steering wheel. She had seen plenty of stray animals in her life, but this one was different. She rolled down her window. "What is it, boy?" she called, almost laughing nervously. But the dog didn't want affection. It wanted help. Then it took off back toward the woods, stopping after a few yards to look back at Danielle. That's when something in her gut told her, follow it. She put her car in park, threw on her hazards, and stepped into the middle of the road. The golden retriever led her past the tree line, and instantly the sounds of traffic faded into eerie stillness. Danielle's heart pounded. The underbrush crackled beneath her shoes. The dog kept looking back every few seconds, as if to make sure she was still coming. They trekked deeper and deeper into the woods. 10 feet, 20, maybe 50. Branches tugged at her sleeves. Her mind raced. What am I doing? What if it's a trap? She thought of those true crime shows where people disappear. But the dog didn't lead her to danger. Instead, it led her to an abandoned minivan, half sunken into the earth, hidden behind a curtain of brambles and vines. Its windows were fogged over. Moss clung to the frame. There were no license plates. And inside, through the glass, Danielle saw a silhouette. Tiny one. Danielle's hands trembled as she dialed 911. "This is Harper, Danielle Harper. I'm on Route 17, near mile marker 42. I followed a dog into the woods and found. There's a van here. Someone's in it. A child, I think. I don't know if they're breathing." The dispatcher's voice sharpened immediately. "Stay on the line. Officers are en route. Don't try to open the van. Do not touch anything." But Danielle couldn't help it. She edged closer. The window was too fogged to see clearly. She wiped it with her sleeve and gasped. A little girl, no older than 5, was slumped against the side window. Her lips were blue, her eyes barely open. She looked malnourished, ghostly pale, with bruises on her arms. A crumpled fast food bag sat beside her. An empty juice box. The door was locked. Danielle banged on the glass. "Sweetheart? Can you hear me?" The child didn't move. Within minutes, red and blue lights flooded the treetops. Officers Carson and Reed from the Maple Ridge Police Department sprinted toward the scene, guns drawn at first, expecting some kind of criminal hideout. But what they found was something else entirely. Officer Carson's voice dropped to a whisper. "Is she breathing?" Danielle nodded faintly. "Barely." Reed called in backup and EMTs. "Get a crowbar from the trunk. We're not waiting for forensics." They pried open the van's sliding door with a loud crack. The dog barked once and backed away as the officers pulled the little girl into the open air. She was alive, but just barely. She was immediately rushed into the arms of the paramedics who'd just arrived, and the officers turned to Danielle. "Did you know this dog?" one asked. "No," she said, staring at the retriever, who now sat calmly by the van, tail curled around its paws. "It led me here. It saved her." Police began taping off the scene, searching the area for clues. There were no tire tracks, no footprints. It looked like the van had been abandoned months ago. Inside, they found a moldy duffel bag, old receipts from gas stations out of state, and a faded family photo. The little girl, identified hours later as Emily Waters, reported missing 3 months ago from a town 200 miles away, was in the picture, along with a woman presumed to be her mother. But no adult was found, no cell phones, no wallets, and no sign of how the golden retriever knew she was there. One officer muttered, "If that dog hadn't run into traffic." Carson nodded. "We would have found her body, not her." Animal control tried to approach the golden retriever after the girl was taken to the hospital. But the moment they stepped close with a leash, the dog darted back into the woods. Quiet, fast, and fearless. Officer Reed chased it for nearly a quarter mile but gave up. It was gone. No collar, no tags, no microchip. Danielle watched from the roadside, her heart in her throat. "I don't think it was just a stray," she whispered. "I think it was scent." And in that moment, every officer present, no matter how logical, how skeptical, felt the same chill crawl down their spine. Because in their line of work, they'd seen a lot. But nothing like this. By the next morning, the story was everywhere. Local news vans lined the shoulder of Route 17. Reporters interviewed stunned drivers who had witnessed the dog's daring traffic stop. Some cried on camera. Others simply repeated the same line. That dog saved that little girl's life. At Maple Ridge Memorial Hospital, 5-year-old Emily Waters lay under observation in a pediatric ICU bed. She was stable but weak, severely dehydrated, underweight, and suffering from what doctors called advanced environmental trauma. No parents had come forward. No legal guardian. Just a name tied to a missing persons report from nearly 90 days ago, filed in a different county under strange circumstances. And no one could forget the dog. Detective Lauren Hale, a veteran with a sharp eye and little patience for nonsense, was assigned to the case. She pulled the missing persons report from Glenridge, a small town over 2 hours away. Emily Waters had vanished along with her 29-year-old mother, Caitlin Waters, during what should have been a simple trip to the grocery store. At the time, there was no evidence of foul play, no signs of struggle. Her car was never found. The file sat cold. But now, with Emily found alive in a van nearly 120 miles away, Hale had questions and no answers. The van had been wiped of fingerprints. The VIN number had been scratched off. But inside the front glove box, a crumpled grocery list in Caitlin's handwriting remained. Why leave a child alive, locked in a van, and vanish completely? It took 2 days for Emily to speak. A child therapist was brought in to gently draw her out. At first, all she did was color. Red and yellow scribbles that seemed chaotic at first glance, until a nurse noticed they all showed the same thing. A dog standing beside a van. And then a whisper, "Teddy saved me." That was what she called the dog. Teddy came back. He didn't leave like Mommy did. Therapists gently probed, but Emily grew fearful when asked about her mother. She said they had slept in the van for many days, eating snacks and drinking juice. She remembered her mom getting out of the van to find help. But she didn't come back, she said softly, clutching a stuffed golden retriever one of the nurses had given her. Only Teddy did. As police widened their search grid beyond the van site, cadaver dogs were brought in. 3 days later, they found what they were dreading. Less than 300 yards from the van, in a shallow depression near a moss-covered boulder, they discovered human remains, partially buried, wrapped in a torn black jacket. Dental records confirmed what Detective Hale had feared. Caitlin Waters was dead. She had been beaten, blunt force trauma to the skull. Her wrists bore ligature marks. No purse, no ID, no cell phone. Just fragments of her clothing and a broken necklace clasped tightly in her hand. A locket. Inside, a photo of her and Emily. Hale's jaw clenched as she stared at it. This wasn't an accident, she muttered. This was personal. The forensics team found one more clue. Buried beneath a layer of leaves a few yards from Caitlin's body was a burner phone, cracked but intact. After days of trying to unlock it, the lab extracted a series of blurry photos. One showed Caitlin's face, bruised, staring blankly at the camera. Another showed Emily sleeping in the back seat of the van. But the final image was the most chilling. A man, partially silhouetted, leaning into the driver's seat, holding a fast food bag. The timestamp on the photo was only 6 days before Danielle found Emily. That meant the man had returned to the van. He knew the girl was there. He'd left her, on purpose. Despite countless interviews, no one in the town recognized the golden retriever. No lost dog posters, no chip, nothing. But an elderly farmer named Harold Gibson came forward after seeing the news. He lived just 3 miles from the woods where Emily was found and told officers a golden retriever had shown up on his land weeks earlier. Thin, tired, but gentle. I fed him scraps, Harold said. Thought he was a stray. But one day, he just up and left. Officers asked if the dog had any markings. White spot on his nose, kind of like a heart. Danielle Harper gasped when she heard this. That was exactly the dog she saw. Teddy wasn't wandering. He was searching. As the forensic team continued analyzing the van, they discovered something odd. A hidden panel beneath the passenger seat. Inside were items that didn't make sense. A faded driver's license belonging to a man named Craig Rourke. A switchblade knife. A bus pass for a route running from Glenridge to Maple Ridge. And a page torn from a notebook with a message written in shaky handwriting. If anything happens to me, tell Emily I tried. I'm sorry. It was signed KW. Caitlin knew something was coming. She had tried to escape, but someone stopped her and left her daughter to die slowly, silently. If it hadn't been for Teddy, she would have. Danielle couldn't sleep. She kept seeing the dog's eyes. That look not of fear, but of purpose. As if it knew where to go, what to do. Like it wasn't just running on instinct, but something deeper. She returned to the roadside memorial almost every day, hoping the dog would return. She even brought food and left it at the edge of the woods. But nothing. Still, she couldn't let go. She started printing flyers that read, "Missing hero dog. Reward if found." But deep down, Danielle didn't believe the dog was lost. She believed it had unfinished business. The detective's next focus was the man from the burner phone photo. Craig Rourke. The name was a dead end. No criminal record. No known relatives. But when Hale dug deeper, she found a sealed juvenile file in another state. One linked to violent behavior, arson, and abuse. And one more thing, an old adoption record. The man had grown up in a foster home that was shut down years ago for neglect and systemic cruelty. Its name? Silver Pines Home for Boys. A name Caitlin Waters had once mentioned to a friend in passing as the worst place she ever visited. When she used to volunteer as a teen counselor, Detective Hale leaned back in her chair and whispered, "Did she know him? Was this personal?" 2 weeks after Emily's rescue, as officers were reviewing body cam footage from the scene again, someone noticed something odd in the background. A blink of reflection in the branches above the van. Upon investigation, they found a small, weatherproof wildlife camera strapped to a tree limb, aimed directly at the clearing. The footage inside changed everything. It showed a figure, tall, male, checking the van on multiple occasions. Once feeding the girl, once arguing with someone on the phone, and once, as he walked away, the golden retriever appeared from the brush, following him silently. A new theory emerged. The dog had been tracking the man. Detective Lauren Hale stood in the clearing again, staring at the forest like it owed her something. 2 weeks had passed since Emily's rescue. Forensics had come and gone. But Hale wasn't done. Not by a long shot. She walked a little farther from the van this time, eyes on the earth. The summer rain had softened the soil, revealing more than just animal tracks. Footprints, heavy boot prints, a second pair, lighter, then paw prints, a dog's. The same path, again and again, from the van, into the trees, looping back. She knelt and took a photo, whispering to herself. He kept coming back. But the dog, he kept following. 30 miles north, hikers stumbled upon something strange. A camp, long abandoned, hidden beneath a rocky overhang. Torn tarps, rotted food wrappers, a rusted lantern, a sleeping bag, and a single photo pinned to a tree with a hunting knife. It showed Caitlin Waters and Emily at a carnival. Both smiling, both alive. The edges were burned slightly, the faces scratched. Detective Hale was called immediately. She walked the perimeter and found bloodstains beneath the sleeping bag. And more paw prints, this time fresher, recent. Whoever had been there, they'd come back. Or maybe they'd been followed. Back at the hospital, Emily was healing slowly. She laughed when she saw cartoons and loved mashed potatoes. But she rarely spoke of the forest, until one quiet afternoon, while coloring, she paused. The therapist noticed her fingers trembling. "Emily, what is it?" The little girl whispered. "Craig. What about Craig?" She looked down. "That's the man who hurt Mommy." She cried when he came back. "Do you know who he was?" Emily nodded solemnly. "He used to be Mommy's friend, but he got scary." She paused again. "And Teddy didn't like him." The footage from the wildlife camera proved 2 things. 1, the man, Craig, had indeed returned to the van several times. 2, he always looked over his shoulder. He was paranoid. But then, in the final clip just before the battery died, a single, spine-chilling frame emerged. Craig was standing outside the van, staring into the woods. Behind him, in the shadow of the trees, stood the golden retriever. Motionless, silent, watching, almost like it was guarding something, or someone. Hale stared at the image until her coffee went cold. This dog wasn't just protecting Emily. It was hunting the man who hurt her. Danielle Harper wasn't giving up. Despite everyone telling her to let the dog go, she returned daily to the roadside clearing with food, blankets, and her camera. One evening, just after dusk, she spotted movement beyond the tree line. Eyes, golden, glowing, unmoving. She didn't approach. She simply sat and whispered, "You did good, boy. You saved her." The dog didn't move. But the next morning, the food was gone. The blanket dragged into the woods. She followed the trail and found something strange. A torn piece of canvas and a wallet with a faded ID. Craig Rourke. Meanwhile, Law enforcement tracked a lead to a rundown motel off a truck stop 2 counties away. A man matching Craig's description had paid cash for a week's stay. Said he was just passing through. Kept to himself. The room was abandoned when they arrived. But inside, they found more evidence. Burned notes, a dog bite kit, and scribbled threats on the walls. One message chilled the air. The dog is always watching. He knows what I did. He won't stop. Hale read it twice. The killer was afraid of the dog. That meant the dog had seen everything. Hale reviewed the photos again from the van's hidden compartment. Something clicked. The bus pass found inside had fingerprints on it, belonging to Caitlin. But it was for a different route than the one near their hometown. It went straight through an industrial town. One with a derelict warehouse district known for drug drops and homeless encampments. She cross-referenced the dates. The day before Caitlin went missing, Craig had been released from a detox center near that very bus route. She wasn't running from a stranger. She was running from someone she had tried to help and failed to save. That night, a park ranger called in a sighting. A man limping, ragged, moving through the woods near the state park border. Officers responded with dogs and drones. They found Craig Rourke hiding in a cave, cornered, bleeding from a fresh wound on his leg. When he saw the floodlights, he screamed, "Keep the dog away from me." There was no dog present. He thrashed, screamed, sobbed. "Tell him I'm sorry," he cried. "I didn't mean to hurt her. She said she'd leave me." He collapsed. The arrest was clean, but his mind, shattered. Hours after the arrest, Danielle received a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of her, sitting at the clearing the night before, taken from the woods. Attached was a single message. "He's safe now. Thank you." The number was untraceable. The next morning, as the sun broke through the trees, she returned to the clearing again. This time he was there, Teddy, sitting quietly beside the old memorial. She approached slowly, tears filling her eyes. He wagged his tail once and let her kneel beside him. When she whispered "thank you," he pressed his head to her shoulder. Emily recovered quickly with time. She was placed with a foster family, and visits with Danielle became a regular part of her week. Detective Hale made sure the adoption agency had Teddy registered and officially declared him a service animal and witness to a crime. The media called it a miracle. The public called it a mystery. But those who saw the look in that dog's eyes knew the truth. He hadn't just run into traffic to save Emily. He had watched a child suffer, seen a mother die, and chased the evil behind it through woods, through storms, through fire and fear. He had done what no one else could. He had brought justice with teeth and loyalty and a love that refused to quit. The trial of Craig Rourke began 4 months later. The courtroom was packed. Media vans outside. Protesters and supporters clashing on sidewalks. But inside, it was quiet. The kind of quiet where grief hangs heavy in the air. Detective Hale testified first. Calm, direct, and devastating. Danielle Harper followed, her voice cracking as she recounted finding Emily, the blood, the abandoned van, and the golden retriever who saved the girl's life. Then came Emily's testimony. Pre-recorded. She sat holding a stuffed animal, her foster mom beside her. She didn't talk about the violence. She talked about Teddy. "He followed me. He never let the bad man come close. He protected me until the lady found me." Craig's defense was desperate. Mental illness, drug relapse, childhood trauma. The jury was unmoved, especially after the prosecution presented the final piece of evidence. GPS data from Craig's burner phone. It tracked a horrifying route, multiple stops around women's shelters, schools, even parks. He had been hunting. This wasn't a random act. It was planned. The judge didn't hesitate. Life sentence. No parole. And as they took Craig away in cuffs, he looked past the reporters, past the lawyers. straight at the golden retriever sitting outside the courtroom doors. He paled. Teddy met his gaze, unflinching. The crowd didn't notice, but Craig did. He whimpered. Danielle stood in the backyard of her small home, watching Teddy chase butterflies like nothing had happened. She still had nightmares sometimes. Of the blood, the screams, the look on that little girl's face. But every morning, Teddy curled up by her feet as if to say, "You're safe now." After the trial, the state awarded Danielle a medal for civilian bravery. Teddy received a silver tag engraved with the words, "Hero, Guardian, Family." But for Danielle, the real reward wasn't medals or cameras. It was seeing Emily laugh again, and watching Teddy run free, healed, and loved. One evening, just as Danielle turned off the porch light, she noticed something on the doormat. A small wooden box. Inside, a black and white photo. Caitlin Waters smiling, standing with Teddy as a young pup. Handwritten on the back. He was always meant for more. No return address. No signature. Just that note. That picture. Danielle closed the box slowly, pressing it to her chest. Maybe Caitlin had known. Maybe she had sensed her time was short. Maybe she had trained Teddy to protect. Not just her, but whoever came next. A former shelter worker later contacted Danielle after seeing Teddy's story on TV. She remembered him. He was found wandering near a burning trailer, the woman said. Wouldn't leave. Stayed by the ashes for days. We thought someone died in that fire. No owners ever came forward. But the dog refused to leave the ashes until they finally carried him away. Teddy had known loss long before Emily. He had waited for someone to save. He had chosen Caitlin. And when she was gone, he chose Emily. Danielle worked with the local police department to start a new program, Canine Witness Support. Dogs like Teddy, rescued and trained, would accompany child victims through interviews, court hearings, and therapy. The first dog in the program? Teddy himself. He became a fixture at the courthouse. Kids stopped crying when they saw him. They smiled, reached out, whispered secrets. And Teddy? He just listened, tail still, as kind, heart bigger than most humans. One afternoon, Danielle picked Emily up from therapy. In the back seat, the girl handed her a crumpled piece of paper. It was a drawing, a forest, a van, a little girl hiding, a golden dog standing guard. At the bottom, written in shaky letters, "He is my angel." Danielle blinked back tears. "That's beautiful, Emily." Emily smiled. "Can we hang it in your house?" Danielle nodded, heart full. "We'll put it on the fridge, right next to Teddy's medal." Danielle returned one last time to the place where she first saw Teddy running into traffic. This time, it wasn't a rescue. It was remembrance. She brought flowers, a photo of Caitlin, and Emily's drawing. Teddy sniffed the ground and sat beside her, quietly, as if he knew. Danielle whispered, "We did it. You did it." She left the items tucked against a tree, where new grass was beginning to grow. Teddy stood before it, looking into the woods, then turned, and walked home with her. Within weeks, the story went viral. News networks picked it up. Podcasts, YouTubers, even movie producers called Danielle. But she declined most. The only thing she agreed to, a children's book. Teddy, the brave dog. Emily helped write it. Teddy starred in it. And thousands of kids across the world heard the story of the dog who stopped traffic to save a girl and helped convict her attacker. Not with violence, but with love, loyalty, and presence. A year later, Danielle received an envelope in the mail. Inside was a newspaper clipping from another state. Headline: Wanted man found dead in woods, mauled by unknown animal. Danielle didn't react until she saw the photo. Same forest, same kind of overhang, same area where they once found Craig's camp. Police speculated a wild animal did it. No suspects, but in the background, blurred but unmistakable, Golden fur. A dog. Watching from the shadows. Danielle folded the article, tucked it away, and scratched Teddy behind the ears. He looked up at her. Calm. Peaceful. But always alert. A dog's purpose. In a world where people failed, one creature rose above fear and pain. He ran toward danger. He sat by a dying woman's side. He guarded a traumatized child. And in the end, he hunted evil and brought it to light. He wasn't just a dog. He was justice with fur. He was Teddy. And he never needed words to say, "I will protect you. Always." Thanks for watching. If this story moved you like it moved us, please consider sharing it. Because sometimes, the world needs a reminder that even in darkness, there's light. Teddy wasn't just a dog. He was a hero, a protector, and a symbol of hope. If you believe animals feel, love, and protect just like we do, drop a red heart in the comments and let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss stories that remind us all there's still good in the world.